Hello and welcome to my series of conversations with men and women whose ideas, vision and philosophy define our contemporary world. My guest today is a national icon. He was recently awarded the Dadasaheb Phalke Award for cinematic excellence. As an outstanding filmmaker on the world stage, his work and films have been feted and applauded and rewarded at the cinematic capitals of the world: Berlin, Cannes, Venice, Montreal, Chicago, you name it. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Mrinal Sen. Mrinal, you were recently awarded the Dadasaheb Phalke Award, a defining moment for you. What were the feelings that you experienced? You know, a hug from the president, a phone call from the prime minister, the Dadasaheb Phalke Award before the nation.
It sounds quite good. You know, I felt a bit important at that time, and the people kept on coming. The media people, both from electronic and press, they came in successive waves. I looked at my wife to make sure that she's not annoyed. On the contrary, when I read her face, I could see that for the first time, possibly, I have been able to convince her that she is the wife of an important man. I felt very safe.
And, you know, you went up on stage and there was this hug from the President of India.
Well, it came automatically. I never knew it would be like this. And he was so human. It was not that a man is going to meet the President. It was a man-to-man relation. And that is why when he asked me a question, do you remember the day? I said, yes, of course, I do remember. In 1981, both of us got the award.
That's with the Padma Bhushan.
Yes, and that was it. And that was the time when the situation was such that I felt like embracing him, and he reciprocated. And that was a wonderful moment for me.
You know, your work has spanned more than 30 films and many decades. Just sort of looking back over that expanse of time, you had a pretty sort of tentative beginning to your film career, not very successful first film, and then to reach this...
It was terrible, the first one. Before that, I thought that I would go into film properly groomed, but then it was not so. I read a lot on cinema, and that was also an accident, you know that. And then I loved the cinema as an art medium. But at the same time, when I was watching the films, because before that I was not even a regular film goer. And when I started watching the films, after having read quite a lot about the aesthetics of cinema from the various books, so I started disliking the films which I saw, the films which were available here. So my passion for cinema and my dislike for cinema, two things, when I watched, two things grew together. So, and then at a certain point of time, I felt that I should make a film. A producer was at hand. So I made it. It was terrible. And then I thought I shouldn't make film at all. I became a medical representative. After some time I left. I came back to cinema to try my luck in cinema again. And it was a success generally, and even Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru liked it for political reasons. I still stand by the political aspect that was in the film, that our struggle for national independence is inseparably linked up with the democratic wars for fighting.
You've said that you've sort of, films that you've seen, you haven't liked most of them. When you go back and look at your films, do you still like them?
Oh, this is a very interesting question. Quite often do I look back. And this kind of dialogue between the past and the present continues with me. And then I sort of discover myself, I sort of rediscover myself. And when I look back to my own films, I always feel I wish these were dress rehearsals so that I could do it over again. So that is why I remember a line from a very eminent philosopher, Doordarshan. He was during Tagore's time. He said, you need to correct your own conclusions. And that perhaps is very important. Correcting one's conclusion means you have to start from a scratch. And if only we could live for 300 years or more, as Bernard Shaw said in his Back to Methuselah, it would have been wonderful.
Well, you know, the Dadasaheb Phalke Award is, you know, frequently seen as an award for someone at the epitome of his career, and frequently given to people sort of who reached the peak and then have sort of begun to decline. I mean, you have just produced, you know, a film a little over a year ago at age 80. Where does this journey take you now?
You see, many people think that Dadasaheb Phalke Award means he is at the point of retirement. And, well, the lifetime achievement, something like this, so he will not make any film. I give a positive instance before you, and that is Ray, Satyajit Ray. He got the Dadasaheb Phalke Award long back. After that, he made a number of films, good, bad, or indifferent. He made his films. So I never feel that I have retired, and death is nowhere near me. I never count my age, because you can't count age by numbers. It is a state of mind. It is a quality of mind. That way I feel that I need to make films. At the age of, since you mentioned 80, well, that reminds me immediately reminds me of a film which I had been an idea which I had been toying with for quite a long time. A man at 80, when he steps into 80, he faces himself. It's a wonderful life and a wonderful time and wonderful age. He faces himself. He faces the reality in a different manner.
Life at 80. We'll talk about that in a minute with Mrinal Sen, Dadasaheb Phalke Award winner. Don't go away. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with Mrinal Sen. You mentioned life at 80. What is life at 80 for you, this sort of a new beginning?
It's a wonderful age, 80. And that's what I have been thinking of making, a film based on a story by a very eminent writer in Calcutta. Now, but I have gone away from the story to a large extent, as all filmmakers do. It is about an orphan, a boy, who right at that point of time had to choose between life or death. If he has to live, he had to tell a lie. He had to tell a lie. Death is the only solution. So he would die of starvation, he would be frozen to death. So he decided that he would live. And he told a small lie, very innocent lie. And he was immediately taken into the society by a very benevolent man who is well placed in life. And it started from there. And he started lying a bit more. And that way it was taken up by the society. So the small society. And so it started growing like that. Ultimately it became a great myth when he was 80, with nobody around him. When he was 80, 3 generations met at a certain place, and the film starts with that. They will celebrate the old man's
80th birthday. Tell me that.
And that was it. And when he comes there, behind him has a great myth. So that was the time when he finds a lot of people. Then all the 3 generations have come up, as if they have come up for a picnic to a certain place. And it starts in the morning and night, the whole night. It undergoes a lot of things, and early in the morning it ends. And that is the time when this man feels, now is the time. He was not prepared for this. Now is the time when I built the myth in a very small way, in a very innocent way, that the myth has grown enormously. And now is the time for me to break the myth.
So how autobiographical is this? Because, as a filmmaker, and you have a large body of work over a long period of time, there is a perception of you as a human being based on your work. So is there a parallel between the real Mrinal Sen and the work that speaks?
Could be like that. Could be like that. I don't know how it will shape finally. So to break the myth is very important to me. It has many connotations, and this is what is happening all around us. Look at Soviet Union. A myth was created to a large extent, and it was broken. It was torn asunder.
Is there a personal myth about you that you would like people to shed?
Maybe, yes.
Because your work has evolved so significantly and dramatically from a social passion that drove the narrative to a much greater sort of nuanced experimenting with form. So in a sense, the stories have become simpler, but their delineation has become more complex. Is that a fair description?
Yes, that is it. That is it. And you walk into it, and you feel that you are growing with your film. You have been growing. It is a long way to make a film. It is a long journey, and you keep on growing. You keep on improvising, and you keep on running away from your script, written script. And that is what it is, and you can't escape it. And when I find the character standing in front of me, they become very, very, they want something. They want to give my due as a character, give my due, which I deserve. And that way, things keep on moving, keep on running away from my original script.
You've had some interesting experiences, where you go onto location, you see a character, and the film changes, or the storyline changes. Tell us about it.
That, I think, is very important, and at times I have felt that which I have changed, which was never in the script.
Give us an example.
I can give many, many examples, but it all depends on how the viewers will look at it, because they have to see it to realize it. But then at times I feel that I must have done a great job. And so I walk into the room, my room, and bolt the door and look at my mirror. I say, there must be a streak of genius in you, guy. This is what I feel. And it came so, I don't know how the chemistry operates, but it did. And it has been happening even today. And for this film which I am thinking of, I'm quite sure that there will be such improvisations all the time. And provided you have only if you have some very intelligent the actors to do these roles, then it becomes simpler for me to explain to them why I changed, why it is not the same as I did in my script. And they immediately get it. They also get into the whole thing. So this is a kind of interaction between the actor and the director, which I think is very important.
What has been sort of the greatest obstacle to the realization of your internal vision? You have a vision of a moment on the screen, and then that has to be recreated visually. So the internal image gets translated into the external image. So is it technology? Is it other people? Is it performances? Is it just money? Is it infrastructure?
This comes, I know, you don't have to work hard to do this, to bring it outside. Whatever is internalized, you have to bring it outside. It happens. It happens without your knowing it. That if it could be done like that, nothing like it. But if you make effort to bring it out, I think there is a lacuna there. I'm not quite sure, but this is what I have felt. It just happens to me.
Filmmaking has changed purely in this process. Now you have video assists, you can see on television monitor the image that's going into the camera. But when you started working, it was, filming something and then waiting, perhaps a week before you were able to see the results of that vision, frozen in celluloid. So was there sort of, panic, despair, waiting, anxiety, what's going to come out on screen?
I tell you a story. I tell you a story. Once when I was showing Akale Sandhane, In Search of Famine, we had very tough shooting for the whole day, and we worked up to 10 o'clock at night. And then I went to bed at about 12 o'clock. I dreamt a dream. It was a beautiful dream which was a reality 20 years ago. Something, and it was a takeoff from a fact which happened 20 years ago when I went to the location to make a film called Baishe Shravan, the wedding day. So that scene, a character living there, he came up in the film. He came up in my mind, in my dream, and he spoke to me. And the next morning I got up. And immediately I feel that I should do something with this. What happened 20 years ago in Baishe Shravan, in reality, when I was shooting the film. And so I rebuilt my sequence there. I took only half an hour to do that. Had there been no dream, I couldn't have written that. But it was so simple. Had I worked it out on my table, then it would have taken 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, but the quality product would not have come up. But here, what happened, I wrote it in half an hour. I told them, and they understood it, and they did the whole thing. And I immediately wrote a letter to my wife that this is what happens, because she has an important role in that particular sequence. And I said, this is what you have to do, and you are coming tomorrow. But she was in Calcutta. You are coming tomorrow, you have to do it. Like this, that was a very, very interesting scene. And very, very interesting, and very positively helpful to the film.
So this process of your creativity has a balance between surrender and control, because at one level there is surrender to these spontaneous processes that happen, but you have to control very rigidly, in a sense, the elements of production, lighting, sound.
I don't surrender to the spontaneity. That I don't do. I have a written script. I have something very positive to say. And then it starts happening. But then that is one reason why I don't ask my assistants or any other director with whom I have a kind of interaction. I don't say this is what I do and you have to do it. No, I never say that, because this is how it comes to me. So it has come to me quite unexpectedly, and it has worked. So I know, if you work that way, it costs money. Filmmaking costs money. Maybe it just doesn't fit in. But then in my case, it has not been so. And even though I work with very limited budget, and I have to be very careful about it, but in any case, it is not like that. It worked well. But then I will not describe the same thing to others to see that they also do the same thing, And it happens to Fellini, for instance. Fellini used to improvise a lot. And once when he was in New York, he was talking to the students. And the students said, we will go the way you do, and we will improvise. We will not write any script. And he was so angry. He said, stupid, you are all stupid people. Who says I don't write a script? I do write a script. I have to go by a script. And during the journey, what I do, I look at a lot of things. And then I feel what I did 4 months back should be rewritten, should be revised. So I keep my eyes and ears open. And that was how I see a lot of things. And these are coming. Because if the students, he had to reprimand the students for the simple reason that the students start from not writing the script. So that will be very bad.
You're watching a conversation with Mrinal Sen, Dadasaheb Phalke Award winner, and an icon of Indian cinema. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with Mrinal Sen. Mrinal, you were talking about writing the script and then being open to changes. Have you sort of felt that your life in some ways has been like that itself, scripted, but looking out for a lot of changes and being open to change? Has your life unfolded as a script, as you as someone who's been open to changes and things that happen to it? So do you work with a sense of destiny, with a sense of a predetermined role for you? Has your life turned out the way you had thought it would when you were 20, 30 years old?
That really is life, A lot of things happen to you without your knowing it. It is like my script. The script takes certain turns. The life also does the same thing. You never know. And that is why I'm now thinking of writing something. I wrote a book which I called Always Being Born. Now I'm thinking of writing a book. I wish I could write it as a rebuilding myself or rediscovering myself. So that is why I think that you have to have a continuous interaction with the past. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That keeps you alive, that keeps you going the right way, and that keeps you knowing that life which you are having now, maybe it was very different, but you are the logical extension of what you were 20 years ago.
So if you would rewrite your life script, what would you change? Rewritten script of life, your life?
I don't know. I leave it to chances. But for that, I only wish I had lived another 100 years.
You have frequently spoken of your wife at every major event, of the influence she has been on you, of your sort of feeling fuller with her endorsement of your successes. You spoke about the peck in the cheek you got when she heard that you'd got the Dadasaheb Phalke Award. What influence has she been on your life?
You see, whenever you tell me about Dadasaheb Phalke Award, or for that matter anybody says that, or for any of my films which is talked about, and well, I have a sense of satisfaction on one hand because I have done it, but at the same time I feel deep down into me I'm not talking rhetoric, I have a sense of guilt. I feel, have I done the right thing? I think I should redo this part. And this goes on forever. I don't think that you are ever satisfied with what you have done, or your life, the life you are leading, is not satisfactory. If only you could start over again, because you know what are the lapses. What were the lapses in your lifetime, during your lifetime? So this is the same thing I feel. I wish I only could redo it, and coming to Brujenshil again, that correcting one's own conclusion. With conclusion, it is not the finality of thing. You have to conclude again and keep on concluding again. That is the most interesting facet of life, I think.
Is your wife your severest critic?
Well, she criticizes me as much as my son does, but at the same time, they're very, very careful about me. What should I do? And there is a kind of satisfaction in criticism that I have criticized him. But that is not all, because they would like to see that I turn out to be a complete man, both my wife and son. And that is why they are very critical. And I take it in an entirely different manner, in the right manner, as I should do. And that helped me a lot. I have to take lessons from life, from my own time as well, and from my wife, from my son. Every time it is like that.
Who's sort of appreciation response to your work in particular is most significant and important for you? You know, awards, you know, sitting in an audience and watching other people watching your film, your own response to
Most significant situation, and a very difficult situation, is that when I have to work with my wife. My wife, she is an actress, and filmmaking is a difficult job. But when you have to work with your wife, directing a wife is much more difficult for the simple reason she keeps on asking me questions which other people may not do. They take things for granted, but my wife wouldn't do that. And that is and then in presence of the whole, the entire unit, she starts asking me questions and fighting with me. And that I think is very important. That I think is very important, but very difficult. That is why I say it is very difficult to direct a wife. So that way, I am enormously benefited by both my wife and son, even though my son is not an actor.
You've had interactions with, you know, Ritwik Ghatak, Satyajit Ray. You were the great sort of trinity of Bengali cinema and national cinema in a way. There is a new generation of directors coming up nationally in Bengal. Gautam Ghosh, Rituparna. There are several people in different regions. What kind of satisfaction do you feel about the future of Indian cinema that you helped spawn, the new cinema, the serious
Look,
cinema?
when we came to cinema, right in the beginning, we did a kind of great crashing. And we found that the cinema is full of good films, bad films, indifferent films. These are always being done. But bad films far outnumber the good films. The way I mean good, the way I mean bad. And then again in the middle it was the same thing. And it is not only in India, it is all over the world. And the good films are much less than the bad films. And so now, when I come to the present situation, I find the same thing. There are good films being made, there are bad films being made, but there is always something. I must talk about the future. If you talk about the future of cinema, many people think, very eminent people in the world feel that we have reached the end of cinema. I don't think we have, because cinema to a large extent is a technological performance. And technology has been growing at very, very rapid pace. And so, technologically now these days, compared to what we did in the beginning or we did in the middle, now technology has grown enormously in the present Indian films. And but then at the same time we must know that cinema is just not technology. It is technology, it is heart, it is the brain. Three things must combine to make a real good films. And this is what is a big challenge to the new filmmakers, even to a filmmaker like me.
Thank you very much, Mrinal. It's been a great blessing.